After bursting onto the scene in an electric rookie campaign in 2018, Donovan Mitchell started off 2019 in a bit of a sophomore slump. He regressed in key areas like scoring efficiency and three-point shooting, and most of his numbers were at or below last season's. But he steadily bounced back, and he's in the midst of his most prolific month as a pro yet, averaging 28 points and 5 assists per game in January, easily personal bests. Some of this might be from an easier schedule, but I also think Mitchell does his best work, by far, when he dominates the ball, and recent injuries to Utah's point guards have allowed him to initiate more offense. His game starts with his acceleration and a very low center of gravity. He's like a shifty running back, staying low to the ground, stopping and starting with subtle changes in pace. He also varies his stride length and his direction in order to carve out shots in the lane. He'll throw defenders off balance enough to draw fouls, and he'll get low enough to move through and absorb contact. Mitchell lives off of this herky-jerky stuff, regularly finishing with push shots and spins in the paint. Note the enormous change of direction here into his Euro step floater. He has a subtle awkwardness about his game that freezes defenders. Check out this atypical release here coming off of his gather step, which surprises the defense. Or how he ball fakes, then immediately cuts his stride short for the quick release. However, there's a double-edged sword to all this. Mitchell finds shots that most players can't, but they aren't high percentage looks, and he doesn't generate easy ones. He's in the 47th percentile from short mid-range, where he's 4th in the league in attempts, with more than a quarter of his shots coming from there. It's a similar story all the way at the rim, too, where he takes another quarter of his attempts. While he can get vertical, many of his slithering moves lead to challenge shots over bigger defenders, and he's crafty enough to score with regularity on these plays, but he's near the league leaders in attempts blocked, and his overall field goal percentage at the rim is in the 36th percentile among non-big men. All of these low percentage shots put a ceiling on his scoring efficiency, but we'll get to that in a moment. Back to Utah's offense, which often starts with a high ball screen, and Mitchell can spray passes from there into the corner. He reads this one in advance with a beautiful no-look, and he's comfortable enough with these kinds of cross-court hookups to sling them against the clock. He leaps a lot on these kinds of passes, which is probably a function of standing only about 6'1" without shoes. And while his 40-inch vertical opens up passing angles like this, it does leave him stuck at the air at times, which can lead to errant passes and turnovers. His connection to lob threat Rudy Gobert are quite solid out of that bread and butter pick and roll action, and Gobert's height makes him an ideal lob target. Here's one that requires patience, vision, and the accuracy to hit a tight window, but Mitchell doesn't always throw it. For instance, this looks like about the same window here, but the pass doesn't come. It's not that he's shy about trying these kinds of passes, sometimes he even forces them when a defender is waiting in position, and in this case, he could just as well shoot this one. He also creates easy offense with laydowns at the rim. This is a gorgeous interior pass, and it's one Mitchell will make frequently if he feels the shot blocker on him. He has solid vision and anticipates plays well, but sometimes his execution is just a shade off. For instance, this pass drifts off target and leads to a pick six, and this one is a good idea but just a bit outside. Mitchell can also miss opportunities. For instance, there's a laydown pass, and on this play, there's an easy layup right here. Because of his size, these kinds of passes are difficult to fit past bigger defenders. He's like a small quarterback trying to throw over giant linemen. Here, he's looking at the short roller, the obvious pass to make, but it's tough to connect over the trapping big, and the play resets. While his handle gets him where he needs to go, it can also be a bit loose at times. This is another trade-off to his slashing game. While he's not a high turnover player, it's an area he could certainly shore up. His long-range shot selection could also use refinement. The stop-on-a-dime pull-ups are money, those are okay, but his off-the-bounce three-pointers simply aren't accurate enough to jack them the way he does. Over his career, he's shooting a strong 38% in catch-and-shoot situations, but a problematic 30% on all other three-pointers. This kind of pull-up three is okay against the shot clock, but otherwise it's really low efficiency offense. Which brings us back to that efficiency ceiling thing. It's hard to see easy ways for Mitchell to become an elite volume scorer while also being efficient. He's not physically gifted enough to get easy baskets all the time, and he's not quite a good enough shooter to break defenses with his outside game. What about the defensive side of the ball? There, Utah prefers to funnel most drivers into their human fly swatter, Rudy Gobert, and Mitchell follows their principles quite well. He trails ball handlers around screens regularly and does a good job of staying connected to them. That low center of gravity helps him here, as he absorbs contact well on screens, and he can negate advantages on other plays this way as well. He gives good effort too. Notice how he keeps pursuing on this play to end up with a steal. His on-ball defense is quite solid as well, and he'll keep most penetrators in front of him. Here he does a great job against CJ McCollum, who loves roasting people with his step back, and you can see Mitchell stays in front and contests. He's rarely cooked off the dribble because of his ability to change direction, and you can see it here as he quickly recovers before fouling. He also has pretty active hands, and his 6'10 wingspan reaches a lot of balls. Again, note how physical he is here before reaching around for the steal. I like that he's reading the screen here and anticipating the pass at the same time, showing headiness about his approach to the game. His off-ball awareness is pretty good too. Here he shows in the passing lane, then immediately looks for the ball since it's the biggest possible threat. He zones up two players well off the ball too, reading passing lanes or just able to recover as he is here. Also, note this beautiful X out, another sign of strong defensive coaching from Quinn Snyder. Mitchell does commit errors at a moderate rate, and while he's an eager and thoughtful defender, I think this is a result of gaps in his vision. The same visual processing limitations that prevent him from being a great passer also lead to some of his defensive blind spots. But Mitchell's biggest downside on defense is without a doubt his size. He's not a big rebounder, he's vulnerable against bigger wings, let alone big men, and like so many smalls, he offers little resistance at the rim against bigger finishers. This lack of versatility and rim protection severely limit defensive value for me, and yet I still think he's a solid overall defender. Impact metrics also think he's a positive on defense, and overall they view him as a strong player who's not quite a star. Mitchell's closest statistical comparisons are 2002 Jerry Stackhouse and 2017 DeMar DeRozan. These kinds of floor raisers are valuable on defensive teams that are short on scoring, but they typically don't move the needle like top-notch offensive engines, which is probably why stats that are more sensitive to team circumstance view him in a higher regard. After all, Utah's top lineups with Mitchell are around average on offense, while smothering people on defense. That offense doesn't look so hot when Mitchell's on the bench. Still, with only minor improvements, Mitchell has a decent shot to be selected an All-Star in the future, given how much All-Star voters love volume scorers. But it's hard to see a path to significant growth for him. He works hard on defense already, and given his size, I'm not sure he can be too much more valuable on that end. He does draw fouls well, he's in the 83rd percentile there, and adding more tricks to his bag along with improved shooting will certainly make him a more efficient weapon. But he's not an elite shot creator, and his game isn't designed to mesh with other ball-dominant pieces. And so overall, in his second season, Donovan Mitchell is slightly below All-Star level in my book. Thanks so much for watching. If you're interested in more about Donovan Mitchell, I did a podcast that is episode number 9 of the Thinking Basketball podcast that discusses his growth potential based on some of his numbers this year. As always, a massive thanks to my patrons, especially all the new ones. You guys motivate me and help me make these videos regularly, so thanks so much for the contribution. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video and that you guys are all having a great day.